Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Building a Modern Employer Brand podcast. My name is Susanna Rantanen, and I'm an employer branding expert and a content and social media marketing coach for HR professionals and team leaders. In this episode of my podcast, I'm either introducing you the first time or repeating to you the difference between employer branding that truly convinces and converts and employer branding that seldom does. Ready to get started? I want to talk to you about the founding principle behind my magnetic employer branding method. And this is, it's not about you, it's about them. First of all, employer branding is really an act of communication, messaging, and marketing in ways that grow your employee awareness, build employer brand affinity, and most of all, convince your target audiences to convert in ways that return business relevant value for the invested resources. Secondly, for this to happen, your employer branding story must invite your target audience in your story and make them both see and feel that there is a place in that employer branding story for them. And when this happens, your employer branding goals and objectives, they're just going to be many times more likely to be met than when your employer branding focuses solely on what your company needs, is, and has achieved. And this is the difference between what I call the more conventional way of approaching employer branding and then the modern employer branding that I and my method represent. So modern employer branding is a paradigm shift. This is like a fundamental change in how people think about something. A paradigm shift is a dramatic shift in the perspective, changes how we approach and understand concepts, ideas, and even facts. And this shift can occur when new data or information contradicts existing beliefs and changes how we interpret the world around us. It can also occur due to technological advances or social transformations which alter how we live our lives. It is a transformation from one way of understanding the world to another. And this can be related to scientific, cultural, or social advances and theories. A paradigm shift occurs when a new idea replaces an old one and opens up possibilities that maybe never before seemed possible. And that's exactly what made me develop the magnetic employer branding method. I want to start by explaining what is probably the most typical business marketing problem. So for ages, marketing has been proclaiming how great the business and the products and the services are. But the problem is that none of our audiences are interested in our greatness. The only thing people are interested in is what's in it for them. And in essence, we are looking for someone to help us solve our problems, steer us away from our struggles and challenges, and really help us figure out how we can become better versions of ourselves or get the career and the life that we desire. So I challenge you to pay attention to this in most B2B marketing, because very quickly I believe that you will find most of it being about promoting products and services and vacancies. Then pay attention to typical official communication of any organization. You'll find official business communication to focus on the one-way delivery of news, updates, and achievements that are targeted at their audiences and stakeholders. I want to ask you, how does that make you feel? Can you recognize any space for you in those messages? I'm going to say unlikely because they're not inviting. So you have to ask yourself, Are that kind of marketing and communication truly effective? Because that's what you're also applying in employer branding and recruitment marketing. Most likely. Will this type of either one-way communication or promotional marketing excite you to stay tuned and become attracted to that organization and their product, services, vacancies? Unlikely, no. The thing is that we have been living in this overflow of information for a long time, and it makes us overwhelmed and uncertain about who do I pay attention to? Who should I trust when it comes to making decisions about my work and my life? I'm sure that you can recognize how we're constantly bombarded with many choices and options and information. You may also feel that you don't have enough time to process all this available information, creating kind of a sense of anxiety. I mean, I experienced this. Too many choices, anxiety. This can lead to a difficulty making decisions. You may have become confused like I have also with by conflicting advice, or inundated with product options and that are leading to confusion and potentially making it harder for you to make what you feel will be informed decisions. So this ongoing information overload makes it difficult for us as someone's target audience to process and evaluate all the available options when deciding which products or services to buy or which jobs and companies to apply for. And this can unfortunately easily lead us to make poor decisions or end up with the least ideal matches for our personal or professional needs and preferences. Now, as said, unfortunately, most employer branding is also like that. We like to talk a lot about ourselves. When you add recruitment marketing into that, we like to talk a lot about ourselves and what we require. So our internal and external communications efforts are suffocated by our needs, achievements, success stories, and updates about us. And the problem is that while all of this is of course relevant to those of us creating those messages, those campaigns, those announcements, those press releases, those blog posts, those articles, those job descriptions, and can also be obviously relevant, at least to some extent, to our internal audiences. The painful truth is that nobody out there cares except maybe our moms. So I'm currently writing a book about this modern approach that I've developed for employer branding. And this book will help you to build an employer brand that is not about you, but about them. Not about you, about them. Your relevant and ideal talent audiences. And that underlying principle is precisely why this method will turn your company into a magnetic employer and workplace. And I want you to keep this in your mind from now on. It's not about you, it's about them. You referring to the organization that you represent and our employer branding currently, and them to your internal and external target audiences, those talents that you want to convince and convert. Another one. So talent is the hero in your employer branding story. Talent is the hero in your employer branding story. I know this can be painful, but for the only way for you, for your employer branding story to be relevant to your target audience is to make it about them. Everything else is highly unlikely to deliver back the expected value. Now, what does this mean? I want to start first with what your role as the employer is, as this is likely to help you understand the importance of role reversal. And I have to say that I've got you covered with something even better than the hero's position. And that is the role of the guide. The trusted guide, the navigator, the mentor, the advisor in the work to life setting for your target talent audiences. And notice how I keep referring to work to life instead of just work life. I do it on purpose. I want to emphasize that I'm not talking about work life, that life that you live when you're at work. I'm talking about both work life and personal life of your past, present, and future employees. Because this is vital for you to pay attention to, as our personal and work lives have become very intertwined during the pandemic. Unless, of course, they were already by that time. But at least by the time the pandemic started and a lot of people went to work remotely, we made this huge transition from just work life and the balance of work between work and personal life to intertwining work and personal life. So it's no longer about that balance between work and personal life. It's the whole thing. It's the 24/7, the 7 days a week. And that's why us representing the employers, or us being the employers, must extend our promises beyond working hours to a meaningful life today and in the future. And in my method, I call this promise the work to life promise instead of an employer or employee value promise, simply because it's not about employment, only the employment anymore. So it cuts more deeper to what am I able to? How am I being encouraged and supported? How does this place support me to grow my self-awareness and help me to create the kind of life that matters to me? Am I being encouraged to develop those skills and capabilities, the kind of awareness and attitude that will help me to use this career opportunity as a runaway to something even better in my future, or just to simply a better future? Or am I here just to deliver value for the employer and owners, and that's it? As the employer in that employer branding story, you want to be the trusted guide, not the hero. You want to be the trusted guide who helps your target talent audiences to navigate and make the right decisions for them in their work to life. You want this because people will always be paying attention to those messages and those messengers that have something relevant and valuable and meaningful to offer. Employers who can convey to me a clear promise of a brighter future as a result of becoming employed by them and committing to delivering their customer promise. When your employer branding messages and marketing focus on delivering these relevant and inspiring and helpful messages and inspiration and information to your target audiences, your company positions itself as an employer that they can trust, who has empathy, who understands their situation, their work to life needs. You give them the reason to follow you, pay attention to you, to invite your company as their guide, as you invite them into your employer branding story. The magnetic employer branding method that matches your mission with your target audience's minds. And you probably ask, why are we talking about a hero and a guide? Well, I want to explain this to you because hero and a guide are the key roles in a story. And the magnetic employer branding story applies the magnetic employer branding method applies storytelling and persuasive communication to create an inviting employer branding story for your target audience to follow and to join. And this method sees employer branding as a journey rather than a campaign, because converting your talent is not instantaneous, but a journey that they have to go through in their own time. People are not ready to jump at a chance, apply for your job just because you have a need to hire. They become ready to make those big changes in their lives in their own time when it's the right time for them. And if you are present already way before, if you have invited them into this employer branding story, in this journey, the day when they become ready to change jobs, you will be top of their mind. There's another key element in the magnetic employer branding method, which is called the candidate journey of the information era. And this is a visual portrayal of the journey that they must go through as they learn about you and look for evidence, which you obviously provide them with, evidence of empathy to become convinced that your company is their one and only, or at least one of their only primary choices. Everything starts with winning sustainable attention. So as you can see, because of the overflow of information, everyone in your audience, everyone in my audience these days has their backs towards me or you, and what I call is wearing the noise canceling headphones, because they want to reduce this information flow and this white noise in their surroundings. So we have to understand that when we try to build our employer brand and communicate to our audiences, their attention is no longer a default. We have to win their attention first. And you have two options. You can either win the attention with a magnificent campaign, and you have their attention for a day or two or maybe a week, but not much longer. And if you don't do anything with that attention, it's easily just a waste of resources for you. Another way is to win attention is to use this method for employer branding, because this how to win sustainable attention is actually kind of a built-in characteristic, built-in element in the magnetic employer branding method. And when you start winning your target audience members sustainable attention, it happens by you inviting them into that employer branding story where they are the hero and you are the guide. And when you're successful in that, you can actually sort of move them forward in this candidate journey towards the value conversions. And what you do is, with your marketing, with your communications content, with your social media, for example, with your events, with all of your marketing and communications actions and activities, you grow your employee awareness, make them more and more aware of what you could mean for them, how you can showing your empathy, showing your understanding to their situation, and taking that role of a mentor, of an advisor for them in their work to life. But from the context of matching with who you are as an employer, what your values are, your ways of work, what you believe in, your mission, and so on. So this can't be random. This has to be connected in how do you want to be perceived as an employer. Then the second phase in this journey is the employer brand affinity phase. And this is where they start to actually like you. So this is when you are, jumping or stepping up in that imaginary position, top of their mind, becoming their most preferred place to work as they learn to understand and connect with your employer brand on an emotional level. And everything has to always lead into these value conversions, because otherwise this is just a cost, not an investment for your organization. So value conversions are goals, employer branding goals that are specific about how does your company expect to get a return from this work that you do when you're trying to win their sustainable attention, when you're trying to when you're building your employee awareness, and when you're building your employer brand affinity. So this is the candidate journey of the information era, and the entire magnetic employer branding method is kind of based on how to do this. That's what I wanted to show you as an extra, as you are obviously watching this episode on YouTube. If you are now listening to this episode, you should go to my YouTube and watch this segment in the YouTube version. Alrighty, let's continue with our episode. So basically, the candidate journey of the information era, as said, is a kind of a portrayal. It reminds you that employer branding is a journey. It's not a campaign. And you have to take conscious actions that are keeping that sustainable attention, that you're not losing their attention and they're actually moving forward in that candidate journey with your organization. This happens through the use of content and social media marketing. It could be event marketing and obviously a connection to your talent acquisition messages. Now, every story has a hero who has a problem that they cannot solve by themselves. As this problem grows, it becomes more and more painful for them, threatening their well-being, job satisfaction, even survival, and declining their ability to thrive. And as this struggle grows, they start to look for a way out, only to discover that the way out is much harder to reach without someone to support them, to guide them on that way. And that's where the guide steps in. That's where your organization steps in as in that role of a guide. So as a guide, you have the authority and the empathy for the hero and their struggles. You also have to have a plan and the ability to cast a vision, exciting vision of how this plan will lead your target audience heroes to their desired vision. A plan can be a career plan. It could be in recruitment context. It is the opportunity that you're promoting and asking them to apply for. In employer branding side, the plan is more widely connected into the purpose, the mission, the opportunities that they can learn in your organization, and not just that, but how does your culture and your way of work, your leadership style, your more extensive sort of range of benefits, not just sort of monetary benefits, how does all of that support them to have a better work to life? That's the plan. The magnetic employer branding method in Finnish, to my Finnish local audience, this is called the vaikuttava työnantajabrändi method. It has a built-in approach how to turn your employer branding activities into this employer branding story that invites your target audience in. And if you truly want to build an employer brand that consistently invites, guides, and converts, then I would say that the magnetic employer branding method is your choice. As said, I'm currently writing a book about this method. And if you're interested in this method and the book, then I invite you to subscribe to my weekly email on building the modern employer brand. And you can find the link below. This is a weekly email that is also connected with this podcast. But in addition to the episode context, only the subscribers of this email get special insight, information, tips that I do not share publicly anywhere else but in that email. Now, I'm going to leave you with your ears ringing this. It's not about you, it's about them. And talent is the hero in your employer branding story. I want you to think about what these mean for you in your work, for your employer brand and your target audiences. And let me know. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, comment and share your thoughts with me in one of those or all of those platforms. Alrighty, this is all for this week, my friends. If you loved this episode, do hit the subscribe button and show me how much you love it. Don't be that old guy who tells his wife, I told you 40 years ago I love you and I haven't changed my mind. If I do, I will tell you I don't love you anymore, so I don't need to repeat I love you. Yeah. Because I find it absolutely endearing when you guys tell me that you listen to my podcast, you love it, you find it inspiring, you find it worthy of your time. It's really meaningful for me. And I truly savor all that feedback that I get. Also, I forgot to tell you, so I decided to do a season of interviews in this podcast. Last week, I had my friend Susie Welsh on, and we talked about how to figure out this thing called life, career, and being a great boss. All relevant also when building the modern employer brand. If you have someone inspiring in mind who you think that would fit my podcast context and have something relevant to share with us, do let me know. Tell me who this person is and what would you like me to talk to them about. I'll then promise to do my best to make your wish come through. Now, remember that all the previous episodes can be found on my podcast website at www.modernemployerbrand.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you didn't watch this episode, the easiest way for you is to go to modernemployerbrand.com/podcast147. You'll find it there. And don't forget to follow me on YouTube. Until next week. Moi moi!